There's a version of the squirrel in your yard that you have never seen. You think you know this animal. You see it every morning. You watch it cross the same fence, jump to the same branch, sit on the same post. You believe, without ever questioning it, that the squirrel you see is the squirrel that exists. But it isn't. The squirrel you see is the public version, the one that performs around humans, the one that knows the rules of being watched. And the moment you turn away, the moment the back door closes, the moment the car pulls out of the driveway, the moment the lights go off inside the house, something changes. A different squirrel appears. And what it does, in those minutes when it believes no one is looking, is stranger, smarter, and more deliberate than almost anyone realizes. Wildlife biologists at Oxford, Princeton, and the University of Florida have spent years setting up hidden cameras in suburban backyards across 3 continents. They placed the cameras in places no human could reach without effort. They left them recording for weeks, and when they reviewed the footage, what they found changed how scientists think about squirrel intelligence forever. This is what your squirrel does when it thinks no one is watching. Welcome back to the Squirrel Mind. The first behavior happens in the moments right after you leave. The squirrel doesn't run out into the yard. It doesn't immediately drop from the tree. It doesn't move at all. It waits. On the hidden cameras, researchers noticed something almost no human ever sees in real time. After a person walks back into their house, the squirrel in the nearest tree stays exactly where it is, frozen, alert, watching the door, sometimes for 2, 3, even 5 full minutes. It's not paralyzed, it's not afraid, it's confirming, it is making absolutely sure that the human is not coming back out. Because what comes next, it does not want a human to see. Once the squirrel is confident the yard is empty, the behavior shifts. This is the second thing it does, and it is one of the strangest things in the entire footage. The squirrel starts mapping. It moves in a way you almost never see during daylight hours. Slow, methodical, deliberate. It walks the same fence post it crosses every day, but now it pauses at each corner. It sniffs spots it normally ignores. It investigates objects it has walked past 100 times. Biologists at the University of Florida realized what was happening only after watching weeks of footage. The squirrel wasn't searching. It wasn't foraging. It was updating its map. A squirrel's mental map of your yard isn't fixed. It is constantly being refreshed. New scents, new objects, tiny changes in the environment, a leaf that wasn't there yesterday, a footprint near the porch, the faint mark of another animal that passed through during the night. When no one is watching, the squirrel rebuilds its understanding of the yard, piece by piece. Because the moment a human reappears, it has to know exactly where every safe path is, every escape route, every fallback. The map you see it use during the day, the one that lets it move so confidently through your yard, is the result of hours of secret work you never witnessed. The third behavior is the one that shocks most people. Inside your yard, there is a second yard, a version of the same space that only the squirrel uses. Routes you can't see, pathways that look like nothing. Tiny gaps in fences, hollows in roots, narrow spaces between objects, all connected into a network the squirrel travels constantly. You see your yard as grass, fence, tree, deck, shed. The squirrel sees your yard as a 3-dimensional grid of secret corridors, layered on top of the visible space. And on the hidden cameras, biologists watched squirrels travel routes through suburban yards that no human had ever noticed existed. Following the same lines, day after day, sometimes for years. The squirrel knows your yard better than you do. It just never shows you. And then there is the roof. If you live near a tree-lined neighborhood, the chances are extremely high that at least one squirrel uses the roof of your house. And it isn't just passing through. What researchers found in the night vision recordings was this. Squirrels regularly climb onto suburban rooftops, walk specific routes across them, pause at specific edges, and sit motionless for long stretches of time. Why? 2 reasons. The first is observational. From your roof, the squirrel can see neighboring yards it cannot see from any tree or fence. It can identify other squirrels, predators, food sources, threats across a much wider territory. The second reason is more unsettling. From the roof, the squirrel can watch the inside of your house, through windows, through gaps in curtains, through reflections. Researchers tracking eye movements on the recordings found that squirrels on roofs frequently directed their gaze not outward, but downward, toward the windows of the house they were sitting on. The squirrel that lives near your home knows the inside of your home better than you would ever guess. The fourth behavior is the one that surprised researchers most. Squirrels perform rituals, specific repeatable sequences of movements that they do alone, almost always when no other squirrel is around, and almost always when no human is watching. One squirrel was filmed at the same fence corner, at the same time of day, for 14 consecutive days, performing the same series of small actions. Touch the wood, sniff the base, climb halfway up, pause, turn, climb back down, walk away. There was no food in that corner, no nest, no mate, no reason. Scientists call these behaviors self-directed routines. Behaviors that appear to serve no immediate survival purpose, but are repeated with such regularity that they cannot be coincidence. The leading theory is that these rituals serve as internal markers, mental anchors, ways for the squirrel to verify its environment, its territory, its identity within the space. In other words, your squirrel has habits you have never seen. Personal habits, private habits, things it only does when it believes it is alone. And then there is the most unsettling behavior of all, the returner. In every yard the researchers studied, in every single one, there was one squirrel that always returned the moment the humans left. Not after a few minutes, not eventually, immediately. This squirrel was different from the others. It moved differently. It positioned itself differently. It seemed to know, somehow, when the house was empty. Researchers eventually realized what was happening. This specific squirrel had been observing the humans for so long that it had memorized their routines, their schedules, the sounds of their cars, the patterns of their lights. It wasn't waiting to enter the yard. It was waiting for the humans to leave, because for that squirrel, the empty yard wasn't an opportunity. It was the real yard, the version it preferred, the version it had claimed. If you have ever felt, for no clear reason, that one squirrel in your yard is somehow more present than the others, more confident, more familiar, more like a resident than a visitor, it's probably this one. It has been here longer than you think. It knows more than you suspect, and it is almost certainly watching your house right now. So the next time you walk outside and see the yard quiet, the trees still, no squirrel visible, understand that you are not alone. Somewhere in a tree, on a roof, behind a fence, in a hollow you've never noticed. There is a small intelligent animal watching the door close behind you, waiting, counting, confirming. And the moment it decides you are truly gone, the second version of your yard begins. The one you have never seen, the one it does not want you to see, the real one.